Hello there! In this lecture, we're going to talk about Pythagorean Theorem. So, before we get started, like, subscribe, put your notifications on, and pay attention. So, what is Pythagorean Theorem all about? First of all, you need to note that it only applies to right triangles. What is a right triangle? A right triangle is where one of the angles in a triangle is 90 degrees. Not less than 90 degrees, not greater than 90 degrees. One needs to be exactly 90 degrees. Let me show you a visual what Pythagorean theorem states. So let's say you have a triangle with sides A, B, and hypotenuse C. What is a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse will be the side that is across your 90-degree angle. And this little square tells us that this is a right triangle. So now we are going to square each side. Turn it into a square means squaring it. Pythagorean theorem states if you add one side square to another side square, that will be equals to the third side square. Again, it only applies to right triangles, and if we know two sides of a right triangle, only right triangle, then we can find the length of the third side. Let's try some examples. Again, I'm not an artist. I cannot draw straight lines. I'm trying my best, okay? We have this right triangle with sides 6 and 8, and our unknown side is our hypotenuse because it stays across the right angle. So let's use Pythagorean theorem to find what the third side is equal to. We have the formula. Let's apply it. So we have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals x squared. When I square 6, I get 36. When I square 8, I get 64. When I add 36 to 64, I get 100. So x squared equals 100. Now, how do I find what x equals to? Because here we have x squared, not just x. I'm going to take a square root to get rid of this squared. And a square root of 100 is 10. Therefore, our hypotenuse also equals to 10. I think that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but let's practice some more. Here we have a right triangle with sides 20 and 21, and again, we do not know our hypotenuse, so let's apply our Pythagorean theorem to find what hypotenuse will be equal to find the length of a hypotenuse. 20 squared is 441. When I add 400 to 441, I get 841 equals x squared. Now to find what x equals to, take a square root, and your final answer will be 29. Let's add a little bit challenge to it. Here we have a right triangle with side 7 and oh my goodness. In this example, we have a right triangle with side 7 and hypotenuse 25 and unknown side x. How are we going to find what x equals to? We again are going to use Pythagorean theorem. The sum of sides square will be equal to hypotenuse square, and my sides are 7 and x. Therefore, x is not like here, all the way to the right, yeah, or left, whatever. It's not all the way here. No, it stays on the other side. Okay, so now I'm going to square. 7 squared is 49, and 25 squared is 625. How am I going to solve for x squared? Well, I need to rearrange it. So I'm going to subtract 49 from both sides. So my x squared equals to 576. Now, what does x equal to? I'm going to take a square root. And x equals to 24. So this side will be equal to 24, not hypotenuse. We already know hypotenuse. We were trying to find what the side equals to. Again, Pythagorean theorem applies. You just need to rearrange the terms. Let's do another one like this. I have this triangle with sides 15 and x and my hypotenuse 17. Again, to find the x, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. 15 squared is 225 and 17 squared is 289. How are we going to solve for x squared? We're going to subtract 225 from both sides. And what does x equals to? Just 8, because square root of 64 is 8. What do you think of this? I don't think it's very hard. Again, if you do not know hypothenuse, that's a pretty straightforward Pythagorean theorem. If you do not know the side, you can still plug it in and then rearrange to solve for your x. I was giving you what is called Pythagorean triples because the sides are whole numbers. That is not the case all the time. Sometimes you will have to take a square root and you will get some nasty irrational number. I just picked the numbers that are pretty straightforward. The most common one is 3, 4, 5. This is the one that I see all the time. Then you can multiply each side by 2 or by 3 and still get the same number. So for example, 3 times 2, it will be 6, 4 times 2 will be 8, and 5 times 2, 10. So now the Pythagorean triple will be 6, 8, and 10. Oh, and we had that one right here. So 3, 4, 5. It's alright, you can play with those numbers. You can memorize them, or you just use your calculator. There are a lot of Pythagorean triples. I used to call them triplets. I don't know. I think triplets is kind of cool, but they're called triples. Let's add even more challenge. Here we have one triangle, but then it's split. You see? You have 14, 19, and you do not know the side. The idea is that we do not know that this angle is a right angle, and we're not going to assume that it's a right angle. So therefore, Pythagorean theorem is not applicable here. We cannot just square 14 plus square of 29 will be x squared, because again, we do not know that this angle is a right angle. But we do know that this angle is a right angle. Therefore, we will be applying Pythagorean theorem twice to find out what this side equals to. I like to start with a smaller triangle. What do you think? So I have 12 squared plus unknown side squared equals 14 squared. Where did I get this number from? Again, 12 is my height, but it's basically the side. 12 and 14 is my hypotenuse, therefore it will be equal to 14 squared. Okay, and I need to find out another side, so I just put y squared just to not mix up with an x. 12 squared is 144 and 14 squared is 196. So how am I solving for y squared? I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides. Y squared is 52. How do we get rid of square? We take a square root. So y equals square root of 52. Square root of 52 is an irrational number, so you either leave it under a square root or you simplify using your calculator, and I like to round to the 2 decimal places or to the hundreds. So y equals to 7.21. I can write it here. And now let's find the rest here. Again, I see a right triangle with sides 12, an unknown side, and hypotenuse 29. So I add squared sides. 12 squared is 144 and 29 squared is 841. Rearrange, solve for z squared. Then you take a square root of 697, and when I take square root of that number and round it to the nearest hundreds, I get 26.4. 26.4 will be my this side. So what does my x equal to? What do I need to do? I just need to add these two sides. So 26.4 plus 7.21. Let's use standard algorithm because I cannot do that in my head. And your final answer is x equals to 33.61. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new and that this will help you get better in geometry and trigonometry. Like, subscribe, comment, put notifications on. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.